Hi, and welcome to SF Live. I'm your host, Christina Marie Flores. Well, communication is a very big problem with some people, whether it's in the workplace or perhaps in a relationship. Lucky for you if that's your problem, because today we have communication expert and relationship coach, Susan Campbell. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Christina Marie.
Very good. Now, at what age did you start deciding that you wanted to get into relationship coaching and communication, and that did that interest you as a child?
Yeah, well, I used to help my parents deal with my brothers, who were a little difficult at times. I was the eldest child,
okay.
So born into kind of a helping role. Mm-hmm. So I've always been interested in helping people communicate better. Then so I had parents too. One was my father was from the north, my mother was from the south. And in those days, those were two really different cultures. Mm-hmm. They've probably blended some now, but I could see their communication, which was actually quite good. And I saw other people's communication, other families that I could see was marked by dishonesty and secrecy and a fear of differences. And so I think I got a jump start from having the parents that I had, because they showed me that differences are no big deal.
Very
They're
lucky.
Not that scary.
Very lucky of you, yeah.
I was lucky.
Definitely. Now, you have written 9 books on communication. What are the range? They range from dating?
Truth in Dating is one of my most recent books. Getting Real. And my first book was Expanding Your Teaching Potential, so it was for teachers. Then I wrote a book for communication and business, and probably my most well-known book was in 1980. It was The Couple's Journey.
Ah, yes.
And that became an immediate bestseller, and it was the first relationship book that was out. It was before they had shelves in a bookstore about relationships.
What in your journeys, what is the number one mistake that people make when they're having a problem communicating?
I think trying to argue somebody out of their point of view is one of the mistakes. Instead of just letting the difference be there and being curious about the difference. And sometimes when you really listen deeply to each other, the difference doesn't matter so much. But when you resist the difference and you try to control the other person to think just like you, then the difference becomes a real battle. It becomes a power struggle.
How does one learn to accept the difference, or to look at it, from an angle, especially if you really don't agree?
Yes.
How can you take that out of your position and just really look at it neutrally? How is that done?
Well, there are stages of relationships, and in the early stage, you tend to deny your differences, but later on, in what I call the power struggle stage, you can't help but see your differences. And usually the real differences that make a difference are something where you've overlearned something that I've underlearned. So let's say my ex-husband learned really well how to take care of himself, and I knew really well how to take care of business. How to make money, how to get the job done, how to be on task. He was really good at relaxing, chilling, all of that. So we're opposite here. That's a difference. That's a difference that people often struggle about. But once you realize that exactly what that other person is that you're criticizing is probably some undeveloped part of you. Like, I hadn't developed the ability to really take care of myself and nurture myself, and he hadn't developed the ability well enough to be on task and to make a living.
So do you find that you
there's a lot of those kind of differences that show up, and if you realize that there's a deeper purpose to these differences, they're here to get you to know yourself better. And a relationship is really a journey toward personal wholeness. Then you're going to be better off.
So a lot of times people will connect with someone that has a wonderful knowledge of something they should learn to develop a little bit in themselves.
It's usually not so much knowledge, like carpentry or reading books about Carl Jung. It's not on that level. It's more their ability to handle certain tasks in life, certain essential tasks in life, like coming in touch with your true feelings. Some people are really good at just expressing, and other people are often kind of suppressed. And sometimes those two types will get together. So the over-talker will get together with the under-talker. And the purpose is for the over-talker to, be less talkative, to learn to just be in the silence. And the under-talker to learn that it's safe to speak out even if you don't exactly have it all together. Because a lot of under-talkers are kind of playing it safe. And over-talkers ought to play a little safer.
Okay, yeah.
So
I've had a few of them on.
Those kind of qualities are the ones that emerge later on to wreak havoc with relationships, unless we learn to value those differences for what they can teach us about ourselves.
So take us through the relationship stage one more time. The first stage, oh my God, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
Little red flag, oh, it's okay, it's okay. You know, they're wonderful, I feel great.
Yes.
Then the ding-a-ding-a-ding-a, you know, wait a minute, okay, that kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
That irritates me, and those things start bubbling up and popping up. So at that point you say, instead of saying, this guy's driving me nuts, you know, that, well, let me look at that.
Yeah, like he seemed really masterful, and he knew his own mind in the romance stage. Just what I need, a real strong man. In the power struggle stage, he's dominating me. He doesn't let me get a word in edgewise. You know, it changes your attitude. I mean, that's a joke, but it often goes that way. The next stage is the stability stage, and that's where you learn to value these differences and learn from them, the way I just said, where you realize that if you're judging another person or you want to change something about another person, that you really need to look at, well, why do I want him to change? It's so that I don't have to deal with whatever, you know. Why do I want him to be more loving and attentive and tell me he loves me and reassure me all the time? So I don't have to deal with my fears of rejection. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to have to feel rejection all the time, but maybe I have to come to terms with that. See, that's part of the growth toward wholeness.
And now with those things, that feeling that you get when somebody does something that really hits that nerve, that button, as you call them, you have a wonderful quote here, and it says that we often need to get our buttons pushed so we can really notice what they are.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember, folks, we've all got buttons, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Like fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being controlled. That's what I mean by buttons. And if we can realize, okay, I have these buttons, and if you can also realize, okay, how do I know when I'm getting my button pushed? Well, a lot of times you are tongue-tied, or you get red in the face, or your breathing stops, or you have a deer in the headlights reaction. You know, all these different autonomic, fight or flight kind of reactions show you that you've overreacted to something that's just a normal thing that life deals to us. And when you do overreact, comfort yourself. Know, I've got some unfinished business from my past around being rejected or being controlled. Let's say, nobody ever let me do anything without them looking over my shoulder. Well, I'm going to grow up, and I'm going to be attracted, maybe, at least during certain stages of my journey, to somebody who is a little bit controlling, maybe. So I can learn to deal differently with that. First, so I can learn to feel the pain around how when I was little, I never got to speak my own mind. I had I'm just making this up because that's not my story, but I'm thinking of a particular client of mine, two very dominating parents, and just whatever she said, it wasn't okay. She never got her own way. So now she's attracted to a man who's controlling and learning to work that out.
And you have these people that all have the buttons, and you notice that you keep dating the same kind of people that keep pushing these buttons, and you're saying, well, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his, and finally you go, wait a minute, if this keeps affecting me, how do you say, okay, so that's a button, now let me look at this and really see how I can get past this? How does one take that experience of all these people pointing the same way and say, maybe it's me, and how do I get rid of that button?
Well, it gets you, sooner or later, seeing that you're attracting the same kind of painful situation over and over, does get you to start looking at yourself. If you value self-awareness and growth. And what you need to do is shift your whole attitude about what a relationship is for.